I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my Music Theory Tuition series where I work with you step by step through the ABRSM Discovering Music Theory grades. I'll work through every single exercise and explain everything you need to know. You can access information about the books I have available to help you on my website. Go to sharonbill.com. For advert-free and longer lessons, you can become a patron at patreon.com/SharonBill. If you can give me a like, that would be super, and please do subscribe to my channel to stay updated. You can support this channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/SharonBill. We turn now to page 7 in the Grade 4 Discovering Music Theory workbook, looking at the final exercises in the first chapter regarding the topic of rhythm, and we're asked to add the missing bar lines to each of these melodies. And so if we just take our time, this isn't too taxing, just take it a stage at a time and just diagram out where you need to, because duplets doesn't mean anything particularly confusing, it just means 2 beats in the time of 3. And so we know that this is 9 quaver beats per bar, and for our purposes we can literally just count 9 quaver beats. Of course it means compound triple time, so a performer would need to bear that in mind, but we can just kind of pare down the maths and count 9 quaver beats if that's helpful to us. It is helpful to sometimes visualise these groups of 3 though, because that kind of quickly does the job for you, because we can see 1, 2, 3. That's our first dotted crochet. Now we know that a duplet is 2 in the time of 3, so there's our next group of 3. There's our next group of 3. So we know that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's our 3 dotted crochet beats. And then just go ahead and pop in a line. There's our first bar line. And so continuing on, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because we've got 1, 2, 3, 2 in the time of 3, 2 beats in the time of 3 beats, 2 quaver beats in the time of 3 quaver beats. And so there's our next bar line. Continuing in that same way, it doesn't change anything, the fact that it's a rest. That's 2 quaver beats in the time of 3 quaver beats. So there's our first group of 3, second group of 3, third group of 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And of course, we'll just check this last bar to make sure nothing's wrong. If you get confused, you can always kind of work from the end backwards, unless of course it's not a complete bar, in which case you can't use that as a final double check. However, we can see 1, 2, 3, that's our first dotted crochet, 2 quaver beats in the time of 3 quaver beats, that's our second dotted crochet beat. There's our third dotted crochet beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Correct. And so if you feel that you can, just jump in and complete these final exercises, and then we'll check them through together. So now we need 12 quaver beats per bar, which is quadruple compound time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we can see there's our first group of 3 quaver beats. There's our first dotted crochet beat, and then a crochet is 2 quavers with this final one gives us our second group of 3. There's our third group of 3 quaver beats in a dotted crochet, and then 2 quaver beats in the time of 3 quaver beats because of that duplet gives us our fourth dotted crochet beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 quaver beats. And there's our bar. Quite a busy bar, isn't it? 12 quaver beats. And then we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 in the time of 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with the dot. There we go. 1, 2, 3, there's our first dotted crochet beat. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have 2 quaver beats in the time of 3. There's our 10, 11, 12. There's our bar, and we know that that's correct because of course A dotted semi-breve breaks into 2 dotted minims, which breaks into 4 dotted crotchets. So we know that we're correct at this end point also. So do go ahead and try these final ones if you haven't done so already. And so let's check through these final exercises together. So 9/8, 9 quaver beats per bar, and it's compound triple time 3 groups of 3 quaver beats. So the duplet literally means 2 in the time of 3. So there's our first group. There's our second group, 1, 2, 3. And then here's our third group, 1, 2, 3, because of the duplet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, bar line. 1, 2, 3, 2 in the time of 3, 2 quaver beats in the time of 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 1, 2, 3 quaver beats in a dotted crotchet, 2 quaver beats in a crotchet plus this quaver gives us our group of 3. And then here we can see that that's a group of 3. It just kind of, the beaming does the job for us. However, let's just think about it. We got a quaver there. Half of that is a semi-quaver, with this semi-quaver gives us a quaver beat, and then there's our quaver beat. 1, 2, 3. It's like 1.5 plus the half gives us our second quaver beat. So 1, 2, 3, that's our 9 quaver beats. And then we know that a dotted minim breaks down into 2 dotted crotchets, and then there's our third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's correct. Let's have a look at this one. Now we don't start on the anacrusis, the upbeat, we start here. We're looking for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 4 dotted crochet beats, 4 groups of 3 quaver beats. So here we know that's one group of 3. Now we know that a dotted minim breaks into 2 dotted crotchets, which is our group 2, group 3, and then here is group 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Bar line. And we've got the same again here, haven't we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's easier once you've kind of got used to seeing the groups, just counting 1, 2, 3, 4 dotted crochet beats. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 dotted crochet beats, which of course breaks down into 12 quaver beats. Of course, the duplet just means 2 in the time of 3 quaver beats. So there's group 1, 2, 3, but then it doesn't continue, so we don't bother with that because that bar's not completed. And then finally, shorter bars now. Here, each bar is going to be half the number of notes, as it were, half the number of beats for sure. So we have 2 dotted crochet beats. It's duple compound time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's our group 1, because a quaver breaks in, a crochet breaks into 2 quavers, and there's our third quaver. That's our dotted crochet beat. And then we have a quaver, 2 semis make a quaver, quaver. There's our second dotted crochet beat, beat 1, beat 2, bar line. 2 quavers in the time of 3, 2 quaver beats in the time of 3. And then there's our 1, 2, 3 in this dotted crochet beat, beat 1, beat 2, bar line. There's beat 1, we know that's beat 2, bar line. There's beat 1, quaver, 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 gives us our group of 3. And then we have a dotted crochet rest, which is 1, 2 quavers plus the dot. That's our dotted crochet beat rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's correct. So that's exercise 10 completed. Now we have a final challenge here. And so perhaps if we just talk about it for a brief moment and then perhaps press pause and try it on your own. Because what we've got to do is we've got to convert from simple time to compound time and then compound time to simple time. This is 4 crochet beats per bar. This is 4 dotted crochet beats per bar because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 per bar. And so for this one, we've got to stretch. So we're going to be adding dots or adding duplets or removing triplets to make things stretch. And here we're going from groups of 3 because we've got 3 dotted crochet beats going to 3 crochet beats. And so we're going to have to squish. So we're going to have to remove duplets, remove duplets, add triplets, or remove the dots here because we're squishing from groups of 3 to groups of 2. So have a go. Just jump in and go for it, and then we'll check it through together. So we can't change the unit of the beats, as it were. There needs to be beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, but here it's going to be compound beats, not simple time beats. And so here we need to add a dot to stretch that into a group of 3. We need to add a duplet to stretch 2 into the time of 3. Add a dot. Now we need that to be in a group of 3, so we get rid of the triplet. We don't need to squish it, as it were. Add a dot, add a dot, add a dot. So let's look at that. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then that makes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 quaver beats, 1, 2 dotted crochet beats, 3 dotted crochet beats, 4 dotted crochet beats. So it's soon done once you realise whether you're stretching or squishing, as it were. So let's look at this next one. So we're going to have to shrink from groups of 3 to groups of 2. So we need to remove the dot. We don't stretch it into a duplet, but we do need to squish 3 into the time of 2 with a triplet. Remove, remove, remove. And you can see that just looks correct for crochet beats rather than dotted crochet beats, doesn't it? So we have a crochet, 2 quavers, 3 quavers, which doesn't work in crochet beats, so we need to have 3 in the time of 2. Then we just want a crochet, 2 quavers, crochet, and we can see that makes perfect sense. Beat 1, 2, 3 crochet beats, 1, 2, 3 crochet beats. So it's soon done once you've got the gist of it. And then finally, a little bit of a revision exercise. Test your progress. So we need to think about as many different time values that we've worked on, from the longest to the shortest. And we've been asked to include some double dotted notes as well. So the longest that we've done is definitely the breve, isn't it? So you have a go and see what you can come up with, and then I'll have a go also. And between us, we should cover all bases. So this is my suggestion. So after that comes the semi-breve, but we can make it a little bit longer by adding a dot, can't we? And then perhaps we'd have the semi-breve, which is shorter by half. And then the minim is the next one, but we can make it longer by adding a dot. We could make it even longer by adding 2 dots, couldn't we? And then I suppose you'd have a dotted minim, and then you could have just a minim, couldn't you? I guess we could have done a double dotted semi-breve as well, couldn't we? And so after the minim, we're going to have the crochet. but we can make it longer by adding a dot. If we had 2 dots, it's even longer still. Then we could have a dotted crochet, then we could just have a crochet, couldn't we? And then the same applies for a quaver, doesn't it? So we could have a quaver. If we have 2 dots, it's longer than if we have 1 dot, and then no dot is shorter still. The same would go for semiquavers, wouldn't it? So we'd have a semiquaver, which could be double dotted. 1 dot is shorter and no dot is shorter still. And then let's look at how this works out. So I'm going to just now, because I guess, I suppose let's finish it. We've done demi-semis. If we double dot it, that's longer than if we dot it. And that's shorter still, isn't it? I think that one's perhaps less than applicable. However, let's think about how we can put these into context. So that would do, I guess, but let's just squeeze the last drop of revision out of it, because if we've got, let's say for example, we've got a double dotted quaver, how do we finish that beat? Well, you can get sort of bogged down in the maths of it, looking at sort of halves, quarters, eighths, and so we'd need another 8 to finish it. But it's easier to just think, if you think of the old-fashioned sort of scales, the balanced scales where one goes up, one goes down, as one gets heavier, the other gets lighter, like the scales of justice. And so just by that sort of balance, if there's 1 dot, that's been longer, that's shorter, that's longer, that's got to be shorter still. So it does just help taking the maths away from it, really, doesn't it? So perhaps that might be helpful in the future also. However, that's the end of page 7, and that's the end of the first chapter. I hope this is helpful to your studies. Please do like and subscribe to stay updated. If you'd like to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee, and for advert-free lessons, you can become a patron. Do visit my website where you'll find many resources available to help you. Visit sharonbill.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.